Right, man. TGIF. The weekend is here. Let's see what new movies came out this weekend. Oh, damn, new Shia LaBeouf movie? What is this? Shia LaBeouf really got his chest tattooed for Suicide Squad director crime movie The Tax Collector. What? David Ayer? New film? Oh, I gotta check this out right now. All right, here we go, man. Shia LaBeouf, The Tax Collector, David Ayer, written and directed. Latin gangster film, what could go wrong, man? Here we go.
One eternity later.
What the What's going on, Flicks Talkers? Welcome back to another movie review, this time for the David Ayer written and directed film, The Tax Collector, starring Bobby Soto and Shia LaBeouf. Now, this film was released August 7th, 2020. It does have a runtime of 1 hour and 35 minutes, and it is rated R. And the quick synopsis for The Tax Collector is: a tax collector working for a crime lord finds his family's safety compromised when the rival of his boss shows up in LA and upends the business. Alright guys, now if you could tell from my skit that I had before this review right here, I had some mixed reviews, so I will go over the pros and the cons very shortly. But before we get into all of that, make sure you guys are checking out all of my social medias and following all of my social medias down in the description below to get updated with all of my newest reviews, movie news that I do weekly with my buddy Elliot from Movie Files, as well as giving this video a thumbs up and hitting that subscribe and bell notification if you do appreciate movie news and movie review content like this. Alright guys, so let's start off with the elephant in the room, the names attached to this film. So David Ayer, a big name I would say, that has a couple of hits and misses under his belt. I feel like he does have a little more hits as far as a stylistic approach to when it comes to hearing his name. So it is written, directed by David Ayer. I believe produced as well by David Ayer. So he does have some hits under his belt. For me personally, that I've seen as Fury and End of Watch, two great movies that I think people keep coming back to as far as saying this guy has it. He has an eye, he has a style for his films, and Fury is another film that does star Shia LaBeouf, and we will go over Shia LaBeouf as Creeper shortly in this review. Now let's go over a couple of the misses that I've heard, but I have not personally seen. Were obviously Suicide Squad. It was a big mixed review film. I only saw half of it because I actually ended up turning it off. I did not like it that much, as well as Bright, a Netflix film that I was not interested in 100% at all, so I did not catch that film, though I believe it's actually has a sequel coming out soon. But I wanted to jump to a couple of his older projects that he was a part of. Let's Not Neglect Training Day, as well as Street Kings, or even Harsh Times. So I think when you hear the name David Ayer and you see a trailer like we all saw for this movie, The Tax Collector, I mean, you have LA, which right off the gate, I love when they show LA, the grittiness of everything, right? I mean, it's the perfect setting for, Latin gangster film, for African-American gangster films, for any crime-related films whatsoever. I think it has the backdrop for a lot of grittiness, especially when it comes to the inner cities, showing a lot of these drone shots. You kind of get immersed in this field, especially if you aren't from California. I definitely got that vibe, and I am from California, born and raised, and I like the way they portrayed that. So that is a plus as far as going into this film and seeing all of that shown on the screen when we kind of take a ride along with these two tax collectors, Bobby Soto playing the character of David and Shia LaBeouf playing the character of Creeper. So right at the gate, like I said, I had no fears of turning this one on, and I kind of just didn't watch any reviews ahead of time or check out any, written reviews, video reviews, none of that spoiler information that could kind of sway me to one side or the other before I completely watched this film. So before I go into a rant, a tangent, guys, let's get into some of my pros for The Tax Collector. So the pros were the focus on the two characters, like I said, Bobby Soto as David and Shia LaBeouf as Creeper. Now, usually in these hood movies, you don't really get a central focus on two guys that are specifically doing one duty. The only thing I can think of maybe is like a Boondock Saints where they're, handling crime business, but it's like out of the norm. It's not the typical, I guess it's not the focus on like a leader or, a henchman. It's kind of someone that just collects that money from these gangs in LA, their cut to take back to the crime boss, the crime lord, someone who's actually in jail running things, from afar, from the phone. So I thought that was cool. You don't usually see that too much. You usually see the boss, quote unquote, in the background, of course, having his chess pieces do all of his dirty work for him. So I actually appreciated that we got to see, not your typical central focal point of these gangster films. It's usually, the people that are out to get rich. But in this sense, it is two guys who are just collecting their money on a day-to-day basis from these gangs. So I thought that was pretty interesting and cool. And the character development in this first part of this movie is what I really appreciated of The Tax Collector. Also, another pro of mine, guys, was the character of David, once again played by Bobby Soto, someone I'd never even seen ever in my life. So this is my introduction to him. And what did I think of him right off top? This guy is a star. Like, I think that his passion for this role in particular, possibly, I think he really showed the duality of, trying to be that family man, but also a gangster, because he was someone that, had to assert his dominance, especially when it came to people that were late with money or people that didn't want to comply with the tax collectors coming through. So there's a lot of different, emotions that he is going through. But for the most part, it shows at the beginning of the day, he has to be a gangster, but at home, he has to be the family man. And I actually appreciated that, especially from a fresh face like this, at least in my eyes. I thought he did a solid performance. So I really appreciated David, played by Bobby Soto. Jumping to another like of mine, guys, is David Ayer's stylistic choice of when it comes to the action scenes. And there's one in particular that was a slow motion scene. Very reminiscent of Suicide Squad with the music and whatnot, but I actually liked it where I didn't care for it too much in Suicide Squad. So I actually liked some of the style, the visual choices, the slow motion once again, the angling of the camera. So the camera, panning choices in these particular shots. And I did like that. That was probably my favorite like of this movie, with some of the grittiness, the rawness, the goriness, so to speak, in that third act of the film when we get the revenge retaliation factor. So I did like that. And that leads to my last and final like of the film, guys, was the villain of Conejo, played by Jose Conejo Martin. He was terrifying. Once again, I had no clue. Never seen this actor in my life. I don't even know if he was an actual actor. This guy seemed like a real gangster to me. So I think it's always cool, too, when they implement Spanish and English. It's very relatable to kind of like my growing up. My grandmas would talk to me in English and Spanish. So I thought that was very fluid, very natural, especially to LA. You have a lot of the Mexican-American culture. And I think that's just very typical, speak. So, as you have English dialogue, you have a lot of Spanish subtitle thrown in there as well. So I thought that was very natural. And you know what? As I think about it, Shia LaBeouf is supposed to be playing a character who is very, Latin influenced, even though he's a white man. But I didn't get to see him speaking Spanish too much. I think he threw in a couple of words here and there, but I think I would have liked to see it a little more. Think of Miklo in Blood Out. He was speaking full Spanish pretty much in a lot of those scenes. So I think I would have liked to see him embrace that character a little much, but I don't want to neglect, my final like of the villain of Conejo, guys. I thought he was awesome. I thought this guy should have won an award for like gangsterism. If they have a gangster award, if they have something like this, give him the, the world is yours, Scarface medal, man, because this guy nailed it. I was very terrified in some of his actions, actually a lot of his actions, and there was some rituals being performed in the third act where I was like, damn, this guy's on next level gangster. So I actually really appreciated seeing all that, especially once again, going back to the rituals of his. They were very stylistic and very reminiscent of Training Day. Some of the shots and stuff from behind him with the tattoos and stuff like that. I got very dark, grim, voodoo type of vibes. So I really appreciated kind of the setup for our antagonist of the film. All right, guys, so that is it for my likes of The Tax Collector. Now, jumping to my cons of the film, guys. And I know it really wasn't their fault, but with a lot of the side characters that they did focus on, there's a cousin that they throw in there who I believe is part of the show Vita, if I'm not mistaken, on Stars, as well as George Lopez's character as the uncle. I thought these characters were just very unlikable, and I didn't really care for them. They were very expendable. I'm not to say that their acting was bad. I thought George Lopez did an okay job. I was like, wow, I haven't seen George Lopez on the big screen in such a long time, or the small screen in this, in this instance. But I thought he was okay, but I thought his character really didn't add too much substance to the actual story, so I could have done without. But I know we would have ended up with a shorter movie. But it was just kind of the family tie-in, to the whole drug business, the whole, money aspect of the film. So that I could have done without. Jumping to another dislike of mine, guys, was I was like, this is a David Ayer directed film, and a lot of these shots look very, very amateurish. And I'm talking not only, style-wise, but I'm talking about the actual technicality, the budget of these cameras they used. Some of these looked very, very like straight to DVD, straight to, not even independent theater. Like, it was not David Ayer budget level whatsoever. And I want to look up the budget now. I'll probably throw it up right here so you can get a kind of, a feel of what you might be walking into, guys, because this is very, very low budget at times. And that's fine. I understand it's about the movie, but at the same time, you want to get immersed in this quality looking world as well. And I felt like it was subpar David Ayers. I mean, you have big films under your belt, even Harsh Times. I felt like the quality of the camera at that time, it just looked more motion picture, if that makes sense. So yeah, that was one thing that kind of sucked me out. It looked very low budget. All right, now jumping to my biggest dislike, and I think this was a selling point of the film, and like you saw at the beginning of my video, guys, the little skit that I did, Shia LaBeouf as Creeper. All right, you're coming off, well, at least for me, I'm coming off of Honey Boy, I'm coming off of The Peanut Butter Falcon. Two amazing films that blew me away. I was fortunate enough last year to see Honey Boy in theaters in New York, and Shia LaBeouf actually showed up to my theater. I've told that story a couple of times, guys. I know you're sick of hearing it, but I was blown away how tapped in this guy was, and how such of a glow up that he had after coming off of, such bad press in his own personal life, whatever he's going through. So I felt like he was on an upper, incline as far as his movie career is coming back into light. Now, his performance as Creeper, once again, someone who is a white guy, immersed in Latin culture, African-American culture as well, because we do get to see, a blood neighborhood as well in LA, which is great. I'm glad they also focused on, African-American side as well, because it's a huge part of LA and that area, right? So, coming off of watching his performance as Creeper. So, very typical. Once again, you get to see, cultures that are usually swayed either, half white, half Latin descent, or full white, but they grow up in, a Latin culture or even African American culture. They usually sway to one side or the other. In this case, it looked like he was swaying more on the Latin side. He was pulling it off with the accent. He had the tattoos. Also, a thing that I didn't notice in the trailer, he had two cauliflower ears. I don't know if that's really Shia LaBeouf or if that was for the movie. So, you get that from fighting really, really hard MMA style, getting punched in the side of your head. So he had very inflamed cauliflower ears. By the way, on a side note, I saw Brendan Schaub right there in one of the scenes in the background. So maybe that was some of the inspiration for the MMA cauliflower ear. I don't know. But anyways, guys, his character did not impress me. I think he is such a method actor. He feels like he's going to do whatever it takes, whether he gets recognition or not. And that's why I do give him kudos on that front. But I will be upfront, and it's not the biggest spoiler. The chest tat that you see in this picture right here is showed for maybe 5 seconds of the film. And it is in the worst way possible, guys. I think they did not do his character justice. They portrayed him as someone as the devil. I think even one of the characters calls Shia LaBeouf the devil. Like, I heard you're the devil. And he goes, well, look at me in my eyes, look at the devil in his eyes. They did not show 1 ounce of how he could possibly be the devil. They showed a couple of flashbacks of him, dismembering people after the fact and him kind of smoking, in a blood-drenched suit. But that's it. At least in films like Scarface, we got to see these guys, hacking up guys. And I'm not saying we have to necessarily see that, but we have to fear these, people that we are supposedly rooting for. And I wasn't rooting for anybody in this movie, really. Maybe David in a couple of instances when it came to his family and, these drug lords. But you didn't really care too much about Shia LaBeouf because you didn't know his fury, so to speak, no pun intended, behind, the demons inside of him to make him this feared person. So that was a missed opportunity through and through. And I was just looking at my watch an hour in saying, when the hell are they going to show this damn tattoo that we keep hearing so much about, guys? And I was very, very disappointed in that execution. So, I don't want to make this one too long, guys. So I will give the Tax Collector, guys, a 2 out of 5, saying, I don't know, man. Maybe if you are a hardcore, street Latin gangster movie type of person, you like Narcos, you like watching that type of gritty, like Ozarks or whatnot. I'm not saying it's anywhere near that tier of quality, but it was a movie, and it was a bit boring at times. It drug on, especially in that first act, guys. It's a lot of character development. You're trying to figure out what's going on with these two, and I didn't get the greatest feel, especially for the hype around, the trailer, the hype around the whole Shia LaBeouf factor. It didn't pull me in. The hype, with the David Ayer name attached, it didn't pull me in whatsoever. So I thought this one was a complete letdown. Going to VOD directly on streaming to rent, perfect. If this would have went to theaters, it would have flopped. But that's my final thoughts on the Tax Collector, guys. Do you guys agree with my review? Let me know in the comments below, guys. And if you did appreciate my review on the Tax Collector, please give this video a thumbs up. I always do appreciate it. And make sure you guys are hitting that subscribe and bell notification for more content like this. Till next time, guys, I'm gone. Peace.